Hey, welcome everybody. I got Mark here with me. I'm Charlie, lead pastor at the Grove. And we just finished a couple weeks ago a series in Song of Solomon. You think it went well?
Good for me.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. And
personally.
It talked a lot about marriage, talked a lot about dating, talked about sex, talked about conflict, just kind of what relationships in general. And the last thing, and I think it was you that said it. We were talking the other day that last thing you want is to have these great conversations and talk about marriage, and then 12 months later we do the relationship series again.
Talk about the same thing.
And nothing has really changed in your relationship. So you hear these things and they're real inspirational, and you think, yeah, maybe I need to do some things different. We need to approach marriage different. Well, what are those things? So we're just going to give you a couple of different ideas for that. And so, that was ask the question really broadly at first. We can kind of talk more specifics. What would be your number one application? If everything's possible, what is the one thing, or maybe two things, that somebody should do in their marriage to kind of apply and next steps from the Song of Solomon series?
Well, all of the whole book was just powerful to me, but I got to focus on that first week and those first couple chapters. And it's really the section that he is pursuing her, and they are in that dating, falling in love kind of stage. And then the further we move through it, I just realized how critical it is for us to always never graduate from that stage.
Right.
And how often it seems that relationships get to that place that, all right, we did that. That's something that's in our past, and now we're in a different day, in a new season, and that's just broken thinking. That there's this picture that you see in Song of Solomon where it's just this. The fire only gets stoked. It only continues that pursuit, and I think that's beautiful and something that I want to be true.
Okay, so I'm a
and
dude.
Encouraging one another.
So I'm a dude, and I'm an idiot. And what you said was really cool and vague, and I want to apply it because it sounded cool, and I know it's right. I need you to give me something to write down. So that's true. I need to keep the pursuit, so now a guy and I were talking about this the other day. What did you do when you were, how old were you when you and Heidi were dating? Don't turn the question on me. I asked you a question. What did you do?
But your girl's different than my girl. What did you do when y'all were dating? And you knew. I was talking to a guy the other day that said his girl loved flowers. Mine doesn't. His girl did. And he said he used to buy her flowers once a month. And then he just stopped. And I said, well, you should totally do that again.
That's good.
And why did you stop? But there's just something that, okay, now we moved past that, and you don't move past it. You only grow in that,
I think something I've discovered is that my wife and what she wants and needs is constantly evolving and changing. As she gets older, as I get older, as our situation in life changes, number of kids, the ages of the kids, the season of life of the kids, my job status, her job status, that what she needs, what feels like pursuit to her has changed a lot. And I think sometimes it's not necessarily like, well, we're married now, so now I don't have to pursue her anymore. I thought like I figured out the things that she likes, and I'm just going to keep doing them. And well, now it's changing. It's changing, and the pursuit is in part me constantly trying to figure out, what does my wife love? What does she need from me? There's been times she's liked flowers. There's times she thought flowers was a waste of money. There's time that helping out around the house felt very romantic. Sometimes it just feels very functional. It's like taking Layla out and giving her a day by herself has had higher values and lower values. And I'm constantly trying to figure out what is it that she likes and wants, and give that to her, because that's my role in the relationship.
And that's so awesome, man. That if it didn't change, I think. Yeah, we're just robots, man. It's just so awesome that being able to see the change and know somebody well enough to adjust, that's what makes it fun.
Yeah, I think pursuit, especially in guy brain, pursuit feels like I'm trying to do this to accomplish a goal, and that goal is sex. Mm-hmm. Like, so I'm trying to get her to marry me. Well, now I'm doing all these things to have sex with her, so she'll want to have sex with me. And really the pursuit is it doesn't have an end. It's I am constantly pursuing to know you better, because that in and of itself is good. And so I'm always going to be pursuing that, because I'll never fully know you. And so in the context of a relationship, this is what you love, this is what you like, this is what you want from me, this is what you need from me. I'm constantly trying to figure that out. And I can always understand that deeper, right? And so, but, it was a lot about sex, that book was.
I was going to say, yeah, and sex.
It wasn't not sex. You can't do the preacher thing and be like,
right.
Well, it's not just about sex, guys, but it was about sex.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask this question in the least awkward way. I mean, you say, well, how should we apply those passages about sex? And you're going to say, I know what you're going to say. Let's just skip that answer and go to a different answer of...
Just do it.
Okay, we want to improve our sex life. We want to have deeper intimacy. Is there anything that you would suggest to kind of help couples get there?
Well, if it's about being, and I can't hardly say this word, vulnerable.
That's close enough.
Yeah, that word. Like, physical vulnerability. Is there another word I can use instead of that word?
No, you need to keep saying vulnerable.
Might just won't happen. But if it's about that physically, and then it's really, in all realms, like there's this, what you just talked about, knowing one another and being trustworthy with one another and open with emotions, with spiritual discussions, with hurts and hang-ups, there's just this, that once that door gets opened, then it really does bleed over into all those different areas.
Right.
And I think that we're just really closed off, and then we expect to be very transparent in this one area.
Right. That's good.
Open kimono here, but you know what I'm talking about? You ever heard that before? But closed everywhere else. You ever heard that term before?
I want you to say it again.
Open kimono?
Okay.
You know what a kimono is, right?
I do know what a kimono is.
Well, you can infer.
I think I figured it out. One thing I think too is like most couples only talk about sex when someone has done something that the other one doesn't like. So he's too aggressive in initiative and it hurts her feelings. He initiates what he thinks is in a good way and he gets rejected. And then in that moment, 11 o'clock at night, lights off, somebody is hurt. Now we're talking about sex. And that is only going to produce a lot of anger and frustration. But 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday when the kids are somewhere else, sitting at the kitchen table going, what could I be doing differently or better? How could I set the mood better for you? Do you like it when I do this? I really like it when you do this. And to be able to have that kind of conversation, I know it sounds really awkward to have that kind of conversation, but it's significantly less awkward, I think, than the conversations we are having. And I think it's significantly less awkward than not having the conversation and having a spouse that thinks that they're doing something that is pleasing to you that's not, or really wishing you would stop doing something or start doing something, and that's awkward. I'd rather have one awkward conversation once a month at the kitchen table than a series of awkward sexual encounters followed by a fight every now and then. And I think we got to figure out a way to talk more, and I think that goes to the vulnerability that you were talking about.
Yeah, that's we had some friends a few years ago that were didn't seem embarrassed to talk, and it was a game changer for us. I think you're onto something there. It just feels like we're afraid to talk about this, even just the two of us.
Right.
And there's just so many issues when that communication's broken down.
Which I think, honestly, that's why we talk about it at church.
Yeah.
Because there's no way that your conversation in your kitchen will be more awkward than being at church and hearing us say some of the stuff we said.
Right.
Hey, let me just read this verse. I'm going to tell you what it means.
Right.
I'll tell you what a well and a spring is and what a garden is. And that's awkward.
Right.
You having a follow-up conversation can't be as awkward as that.
And it's not our fault. God put that in the Bible,
it's not
right?
my fault. It's not my fault.
Right.
So
he wanted us to have that conversation.
Yeah.
He let out.
And I think the last thing that I would want people to know and understand is, if you're stuck, reach out for help. Start with your small group leader. Come to one of us. Go see a counselor. There's lots of great people out there. If you need recommendations on a counselor to see, we've got some great ones in our church who also have great resources with counselors, therapists all over Northwest Arkansas. I think too many people, they get stuck and they get embarrassed when there's not one problem one person's having in their marriage that you and I probably haven't experienced personally, much less everybody else in the world has. And so not feeling like you have this pressure to do it alone, I think is good. All right, so it's been great. Thanks, Mark. Thank you guys, and thanks for tuning in, and we'll talk to you soon.